In a Soviet-era Estonian tower block, Arvo Pärt forged a new musical language. In exile in Germany, he became the world's most performed living composer. His music speaks directly to the soul.
Music that hovers in a place somewhere between heaven and earth. Performed by the choir Vox Clamantis high above the treetops of Estonia, close to the Baltic Sea. Written by a man who spent decades in exile in Germany and who became the most frequently performed contemporary composer of our time. Arvo Pärt.
He already has written his name in the music history. So for my taste and for my understanding, his music is timeless.
In September 2025, he turned 90. Since then, Arvo Pärt has withdrawn from public life, but the poetry of his music is more present than ever.
Music is my friend, understanding, emphatic, forgiving, comforter, a towel to dry tears of sadness, a source for tears of happiness, liberation and flight, but also a painful thorn.
Pärt's works are brought to the world by musicians like the multi-award-winning conductor Paavo Järvi from Estonia. His father, the conductor Niime Järvi, is a close friend of Arvo Pärt and was a frequent visitor to the family home.
Arvo Pärt I remember seeing in our house when I was a small boy. He had a kind of a big beard and I always remember that he had a jeans and jean jacket, which was very unusual and interesting to us because that was somehow a symbol of the West. It was a closed Iron Curtain country. Soviet kept us from going outside, but the little symbols like, for example, a jean jacket or a baseball cap, which Arvo Pärt was also wearing all the time, somehow made him look exotic for me as a small boy.
After studying music, Pärt worked as a sound engineer for Estonian radio in Tallinn. In the 1960s, he drew inspiration from the avant-garde, 12-tone music and collage techniques, and became a celebrated composer. But then he entered a period of deep personal despair and sought other ways to express his creativity. Back in the 1970s, he lived with his family in a prefab housing block in Tallinn.
My feeling is that he lived entirely in his own world. On the one hand, on the outside, there was this grey prefab housing block. On the other, his wife Nora described the flat's interior decoration like a theatre with red curtains and icons on display. They painted little plant pots, played music with friends, sang, and held very long conversations about art and the meaning of life.
It was in this prefab block of flats that Pärt developed his subversive response to the rigid Soviet system. He developed his unique Tintinnabuli style. The fragile tones, floating like the chimes of bells, are both delicate and brimming with pain and comfort. For Alina, his first groundbreaking work, was composed in 1976.
That's the melody part. Now the second triad part. It's difficult to explain the rules precisely. It's easier to hear them. So the second voice is like a guardian angel who accompanies you on your journey.
Welche dich auf deinem Wege begleitet.
Listen.
While in Tallinn, Pärt stumbled upon a recording of music he'd never heard before, Gregorian chants. He also discovered the writings of Saint Silouan of Athos, a Russian monk and mystic of the Orthodox Church. Pärt immersed himself in Silouan's spiritual texts and joined the Russian Orthodox Church in the early 1970s. The commitment was also an act of defiance against the communist regime. In response, the authorities subjected him to unofficial censure and intense ideological pressure. In 1980, Arvo Pärt left Estonia and moved to Germany with his family. There he met Manfred Eicher, founder of record label ECM, who developed the perfect sound for Pärt's minimalistic music. He remained in Germany for almost 30 years.
The German part of his music oeuvre has played an important part, especially unfolding his wings and being creatively free, and writing a lot of pieces to German text, having a lot of German conductors and musicians, soloists, performers, recordings. So Germany plays such an important part in my father's work.
The universal appeal of Pärt's music makes it perfect for film soundtracks, like the space drama Gravity. Pärt's works are also a favorite in the art world. He entered into a collaboration with renowned German painter Gerhard Richter. Both sought an artistic means of expressing the elusive depths of the human condition, with its struggle for inner peace and redemption.
The most sensitive musical instrument is the human soul. The next is the human voice. One must purify the soul until it begins to sound.
He lives inside this spirituality, and he tried to say through his music.
In the 1990s, Arvo Pärt met Jaan-Eik Tulve and the Estonian choir Vox Clamantis, which specializes in Gregorian chants. The choir included his works in its repertoire, and Pärt composed a number of pieces for the ensemble. Arvo Pärt draws inspiration from biblical passages and the teachings of Saint Silouan. His chorales are prayers sung from the innermost depths of the soul.
I think very important is to breathe together with the text and the music. It must be so natural as our breathing or our walking.
Jeder einzelne Ton
Every single note requires so much love and must be performed with the utmost care and beauty.
The Estonian conductor Kristiina Poska is also fascinated by Pärt's work. It's so much more than just music and always conveys a message, she says. Poska describes Pärt's music as brimming with sorrow, but also a sense of comfort.
I find his music absolutely cathartic. It presents us with the opportunity to hear the sound of our own soul. It's perhaps one of the greatest aspects of his music. And then there's the silence that lies within his music and between the phrases. These moments are precisely what allows us to connect with ourselves and our souls.
Arvo Pärt relishes being out in nature. It's here that he finds peace and tranquility. He's especially fond of the woods near the little village of Laulasmaa, where he's been living since returning to Estonia. Here, in the heart of the forest southwest of Tallinn, the family created the Arvo Pärt Centre.
It's a building that is conceptually very unique. It brings the forest inside with the courtyards that we find inside. And at the same time, it's very bright. And yet it flows in and out of the forest. There is no entrance, there is no exit, there is no back, there is no front. And it allows the visitor who's inside the building to be in a space that is not really defined as inside or outside. And it creates this organicness to it.
Pärt's work is also very much present in the Estonian capital, Tallinn. It's regularly performed in concert halls and churches such as St. John's. Pärt has put his small country on the map. A vocal champion of freedom and democracy, he's widely recognized as Estonia's top cultural ambassador.
Estonia is famous for its singing revolution. In other words, the Estonians sang their way to freedom from the Russians. And few embody this country like Arvo Pärt. And that's why it's brilliant that he's being awarded the Goethe Medal.
Music from Estonia, written by Arvo Pärt, a composer who challenges rigid ideologies with spirituality, who leads listeners back to their innermost selves.